She's not Princess Diana, and he can't protect her from the press because we're the press. It's called the free press for a reason. We don't answer to Prince Harry. So he never should have promised her that he could have quieted us down. He could have protected her. And he didn't need to promise that anyway because she didn't believe that promise because she's an American and she knows how the game works.
While Prince Harry once promised Meghan Markle he could protect her from the press, Megyn Kelly says the truth is far more ironic. He now depends on that very press to survive. The contradiction is brutal. The royal who claimed to hate headlines is, according to Kelly and multiple reports, the same man whose entire life strategy revolves around staying in them. And here's the kicker. Kelly argues Harry's real fear isn't exposure, it's being forgotten. Because the moment Prince George turns 18, Britain will no longer need the spare. They'll have a new heir-in-waiting to cover.
You know what they're mad about? What this all boils down to? They get bad press. They're mad. They used to get universally good press, and now it's turned kind of sour. Especially since they started whining nonstop, and they're mad.
That ticking clock explains why Harry's public life feels less like freedom and more like desperation. Sources say Kelly's commentary struck a nerve because it cut through the victim story Harry and Meghan have tried to build. For years, the couple have presented themselves as wounded truth-tellers, driven out of the palace by cruelty and control. But critics argue the Netflix series, the Oprah interview, and Harry's memoir, Spare, all look less like healing and more like a carefully planned business model. Reports suggest the Sussex brand is built on complaints. Keep retelling the same story, keep finding new buyers, keep the spotlight alive. And as Kelly put it, Harry isn't scared of paparazzi. He's scared of fading out of the story altogether.
He's not worried about press. He's worried about fading out as an irrelevant royal. He loves it, she loves it. They just don't like the bad stuff. Well, guess what? It's called being a public figure. Grow up and deal with it.
Industry insiders explain why this contradiction matters. In Hollywood, staying relevant is everything. Without it, the deals stop, the calls dry up, and the public moves on. According to reports, Harry knows this. It's why the couple fought for multi-million-dollar contracts in California. It's why every year seems to bring another exclusive interview that goes over old wounds. But here's the hook most competitors missed. The public isn't just tired of the whining, they're noticing the desperation. Once Harry was loved simply for being himself. The soldier prince, the cheeky spare. Now, critics see him as a man chasing validation in boardrooms and streaming studios. The contrast is impossible to ignore. And this is where the tension begins to build. Because Harry's contradiction isn't just a quirk, it's the foundation of his entire identity.
We're so lucky. We get it. We have great lives. No, there's still poor me. We're in danger. The royal family's evil. We were the only warm and fuzzy ones. It's so fun to tell the mean stories. If I set it to soft music, I'm going to look nicer. That's their whole gig.
He hates the press in public, yet reportedly needs the press to remain relevant. He condemns the palace leaks, yet critics claim he and Meghan have leaked stories of their own. He left royal duty in search of independence, but his every move suggests dependence on contracts, on cameras, on controversy. Megyn Kelly's sharpest point wasn't just that Harry fears being forgotten, it's that his very efforts to escape that fate might be speeding it up. And if that's true, then the irrelevant royal label isn't just cruel gossip, it could be the story of Harry's entire legacy. Reports suggest Harry's obsession with staying relevant is written all over his career choices since leaving the palace. When the Oprah interview aired, it was sold as a one-off truth bomb, but insiders claim it was really the blueprint for everything that followed. Sell complaints, sell exclusivity, and above all, sell access. Megyn Kelly pointed out that what began as a confession quickly became an industry.
This docuseries, I mean, we've heard it. There's nothing new. Give us something new. Maybe we're going to get something new on Thursday. I look forward to it. I look forward to reacting. But so far, it's been a retread of old, whiny grievances.
The Netflix series, the Spotify podcast, and Spare all mined the same themes. But instead of healing, critics say they revealed calculation. As Kelly put it, Harry doesn't fear the press. He feeds off it. And that's where the cracks began to show, because while sympathy once carried their brand, tiredness has taken its place. Insiders claim the collapse of their Spotify deal exposed just how fragile this machine has become. According to industry reports, executives expected groundbreaking content. Instead, they received recycled soundbites that didn't justify the massive paycheck. The backlash was swift, and Kelly herself made fun of the idea that Meghan and Harry could position themselves as creative powerhouses when the output felt so thin. The word insiders used was boring, a devastating label in an industry built on attention. And here's the irony Kelly emphasized. Harry once drew headlines simply by showing up at a royal event. Now he and Meghan spend millions trying to create the kind of attention that used to come free. But here's where the tension sharpens. Sources close to the couple say Harry feels the imbalance between himself and Meghan more deeply than ever. Meghan is often painted as the strategist, the one pushing for political goals or US branding moves, while Harry is cast as the tag-along. That dynamic, reports suggest, eats at him. Kelly herself made fun of the idea that Harry could protect Meghan from the press, reminding audiences that no prince, no matter how privileged, can silence a free press. And yet, critics argue, Harry built his marriage on that impossible promise. Now, when he fails to deliver, the narrative flips. Meghan appears clever and ambitious, while Harry looks reactive and insecure. That imbalance becomes most dangerous when you consider the long-term stakes. Insiders reveal Harry's greatest fear is not being remembered as the soldier prince, but as Meghan Markle's +1. That's the contradiction Kelly hammered home. The man who once represented service and duty now risks being defined entirely by complaints and dependence. And this is where the clock becomes more than a metaphor. With Prince George growing older, the spotlight Harry once held as the spare is already shifting. If Kelly is right, Harry's desperate attempts to stay relevant aren't protecting his legacy. They're speeding up its decline. The question hanging over all of this is brutal. What happens when the audience finally tunes out? Megyn Kelly didn't hold back when describing the Sussexes' endless storytelling cycle. She made fun of the idea that their Netflix series was groundbreaking, pointing out how much of it was a retread of old whiny complaints. According to Kelly, their truth-telling brand collapses under its own contradictions. You can't claim to be silenced while simultaneously publishing a memoir, dropping a documentary, and sitting down with every major outlet. Reports suggest this repetition isn't accidental. It's the only card they have left to play. Industry insiders say Harry and Meghan's business model is complaints on demand. Each time public interest fades, another reveal appears. But the revelations, Kelly argued, keep shrinking in importance, turning once explosive headlines into what she described as boring replays. And boring in Hollywood is fatal. The Palace Leaks controversy only deepens the contradictions. In their series, Harry and Meghan strongly hinted that palace officials protected Prince William at their expense. The line that they would lie to protect William but not tell the truth to protect us was marketed as one of the series' most damning claims. But Kelly countered with what royal reporters have long whispered. Insiders claim the palace often tried to shield Meghan from the worst headlines only to be accused of betrayal anyway. Dan Wooten, one of the most connected royal journalists, has said palace aides repeatedly told him to pull negative stories about Meghan. If that's true, it paints a very different picture. Instead of being uniquely targeted, Meghan may have been uniquely protected, a story that undercuts the Sussexes' claim of systematic cruelty. Reports also suggest Harry and Meghan themselves were not above playing the same game they condemned. Royal correspondents claim the couple selectively leaked stories about Prince William and Kate to present themselves in a better light. While these claims remain disputed, the pattern of contradiction is undeniable. Kelly highlighted the hypocrisy with a biting observation. Harry and Meghan never admit mistakes. If no one is willing to say they've ever done anything wrong in their entire life, then I don't believe anything they have to say, Kelly said. It was a devastating line because it reframed the couple not as victims, but as manipulators. And manipulation, unlike complaints, doesn't sell well when it's exposed. But perhaps Kelly's harshest cut came when she described the royal family's original strategy. Queen Elizabeth, she argued, understood why royals must remain mysterious. Once they begin explaining themselves, the magic is gone and the flaws show. By telling their truth, Harry and Meghan may have burned through their mystique far too quickly. Reports indicate the British public already sees them less as tragic figures and more as performers recycling the same script. That shift matters because it suggests their greatest revelation, that they were mistreated by the palace, has already peaked. Now every repeat feels less like truth and more like theater. And theater, without novelty, quickly loses its audience. When Megyn Kelly made fun of the idea of Meghan Markle running for Congress, it wasn't just a joke. It was a warning about how far the Sussexes might be willing to go to preserve relevance. "I hope she does," Kelly said with biting sarcasm, before adding that Meghan would soon learn American politics is a swamp where everyone is only as smart as Prince Harry. According to insiders, these political rumors weren't entirely made up. Reports suggest Meghan has indeed been quietly networking in California, testing the waters for a future role beyond entertainment. For Harry, this poses a deeper crisis. If Meghan becomes the public face of the Sussexes' next chapter, sources say he risks being permanently sidelined, not as a royal, not even as a partner, but as a footnote. And that's exactly the kind of being forgotten Kelly argues he fears most. Insiders claim this imbalance has already strained their strategy. Meghan is seen as ambitious, clever, and opportunistic, while Harry increasingly appears reactive and insecure. The irony, as Kelly highlighted, is that Harry once promised he could protect Meghan from the scrutiny of the press. Now, critics argue she is the one protecting him, not from the tabloids, but from disappearing altogether.
Reports suggest Harry's image has shifted from soldier prince to supporting character in Meghan's story, a narrative that eats at his pride and speeds up his desperation. Each time Meghan shines, Harry risks looking smaller by comparison. And in a marriage built on shared visibility, shrinking is the one thing he cannot afford. The palace drama only intensifies this picture. According to Kelly, the Sussexes' suggestion that palace aides planted negative stories about Meghan might backfire spectacularly. Royal insiders counter that the couple themselves were active participants in selective leaking. If true, this would mean Harry isn't just fighting being forgotten, he's fighting exposure. Because if the public believes he played the same game he condemned, his credibility collapses. Kelly drove this point home when she said the Sussexes never admit mistakes, never show humility, and never acknowledge fault. That refusal, she argued, makes them look less like survivors and more like manipulators. And in the court of public opinion, manipulation is far harder to forgive than naivete. But here's where the drama peaks: the countdown clock. Kelly's insight about Prince George becoming the new focal point of the monarchy is more than symbolic. It's the moment Harry's narrative shifts from spare in exile to irrelevant outsider. Industry insiders say this is why every Sussex project feels frantic, why every contract must be bigger than the last, and why every interview circles back to the same complaints. It's not about telling their truth. It's about racing the clock before the spotlight moves on forever. And if Kelly is right, Harry's own choices are making that spotlight dim faster. Because nothing kills relevance quicker than desperation, and right now, desperation is written all over his brand. The fallout from Megyn Kelly's blunt commentary is bigger than just another round of headlines. Her critique cuts to the core of Harry's identity, the idea that he is no longer defined by service or duty, but by complaints and survival. According to reports, this is the very contradiction now haunting the Sussexes. Harry's greatest fear, being forgotten, isn't some distant threat. It's happening in real time. Every poll shows the same trend. The more he speaks, the less people listen. The more he complains, the more sympathy fades. Kelly's framing of him as the irrelevant royal isn't just an insult, it's a prediction. And the most devastating part? Insiders claim Harry himself knows it. Industry voices argue that Harry's brand has become a slow-motion disaster. The public no longer sees the soldier prince who walked behind Diana's coffin or served on the front lines in Afghanistan. Instead, they see a man struggling to justify his fame outside the palace walls. Kelly made fun of the endless retelling of complaints as a tired act, but reports suggest executives in Hollywood are starting to agree. Without fresh content or new ideas, the Sussexes risk becoming what critics already call them: boring. And in a world where attention is the only currency, boring is the final nail in the coffin. That's why whispers of Meghan's political ambitions raise so many eyebrows. They're not just about her, they're about Harry's survival as well. Because if she rises while he remains stuck, the balance shifts permanently. But here's the irony Kelly underscored with devastating clarity. The more Harry fights being forgotten, the faster it seems to catch him. By leaving the monarchy, he gave up the one thing that Made him untouchable: his role in an institution larger than himself. By chasing Hollywood, he entered a marketplace where novelty fades overnight. Reports suggest even loyal supporters are beginning to drift, frustrated by recycled stories and contradictions that never resolve. And so, the question becomes inescapable. What is Harry without the crown, without the uniform, and without the cameras? The answer may be exactly what Kelly said: irrelevant. The monarchy will endure, Britain will endure, but Harry's place in history may shrink to the very thing he fears most: a cautionary tale about the dangers of clinging to relevance at all costs. That's the tea on Prince Harry's biggest fear and Megyn Kelly's brutal takedown. But what do you think? Is Harry truly on the path to being forgotten? Or is there still a chance for redemption? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every one. Smash that like button if this shocked you, and don't forget to subscribe for more insider breakdowns of Hollywood and royal drama. And if you thought this story was wild,
Click here for another celebrity scandal that will leave you speechless.